Good morning. I am Vito Cappellini. Many of you know me, and I am happy to see in time and the day all the friends we had a correspondence in last month. First of all, I give the speech to Enrico Del Re. No, excuse me, Enrico Vicario. I did a mistake because Enrico Vicario, Director of the Department of Information Engineering. I hope Enrico Vicario is on the line. Enrico Vicario, you can 5 minutes give welcome as Department of Information Engineering. Eventually, we have the talk by Enrico Vicario later, and we are waiting for the President Eugenio Gianni of the Regional Council of Tuscany, where we are. This is a beautiful room, Gonfalone room, used for ceremony by the Council. And we thank very, very much the Council for giving us the possibility to be here in this wonderful place, historical Renaissance, as in Florence, near all is Renaissance time. In a few minutes, we have really coming the President Eugenio Gianni. In the meantime, I tell to all of you not in line with our Eva in the world. I have seen before my best friend James Emsley. He is in London, and I started to remember that in 90, so 31 years ago, James Emsley, I call Jim as a really best friend. James created for the first time in Italy, in Europe, Italy also, and all the world, the EVA word. EVA means Electronic Imaging Visual Arts in Imperial College. In 90, we celebrated, he gave it this very, very special creation for our activity in Europe and in the world. So I'm very happy that James is online. I haven't seen before. And from there, past the 31 year, I was there. Second year, in 91, we started a small workshop, EVA workshop in Florence. Now we are in the 30 year of EVA activity in Florence. So not 31 as London. London is the motherland of this network in the world. And so I am very happy that Jim is on the line. Because with Jim in particular, we did in 90 years many, I say, beautiful adventure. We started a new European project, in particular one creating a very important system, Vasari scanner. We implemented one in National Gallery in London, one in Uffizi in Florence, and one in Vienna. And it is a wonderful system, very big, 3 meter by 2 meter, 3 meter, was able to take from any painting, any artwork, 8 images, not 3, 8, in the main colors we know, in the spectral wavelength field, up to infrared, the near infrared. We copied the Landsat satellite. We had at the time Landsat satellite with one sensor on board, taking an image on the Earth and the sea surface of the Earth. So we copied in some way the sensor of Landsat. It is a wonderful system, giving 8 images for each artwork, was opening a new era of research, because having 8 images, you can, on the paintings or also sculpture, but mainly the paintings, do research in many, many lines. I go on with Jim Emsley again. We created a network we call International EVA Network, or EVA Community in the world, and we did many important actions. I remember only 2. One was in 92, organizing in Beijing, in China, with European Commission. The EVA Beijing was very, very important. And this remains one historical point of our activity. We were many times in Japan, in Gifu, for instance, in Tokyo, and in all the world. I go to last times, 3 years ago, with James. We wrote a book, Culture and Technology, which is now on the library available, and the book reports 26 years of activity of this international network. I must say that in London in particular, where all was born, because we followed this London James Emsley initiative, also in Florence, in all Europe and the world. In London, they have realized a very important EVA London with Jonathan Graham. I remember some now organizer of EVA London. So EVA London, also if England is not more in Europe, is in some way remaining the city mother of the EVA. Florence followed, I remember, again in the following year, 91, so we are near London 1 year later. But I like to remember all, and I terminate in a few minutes because the president is arriving. We have a very important in Europe, EVA Berlin, with Andreas Binart. I hope Andreas will be in the day. He sent a paper. We produced one book not available for all, for no one except the authors of the papers. I have one copy for me only, because the copyright suggestion is to take the original paper for each one to use in journal, magazine, or other conference. Anyway, EVA Berlin is very important. Andreas Binart is with us. And going on, we have EVA Jerusalem, very, very important also. We have also EVA St. Petersburg. Before we had EVA Moscow, up to 5-6 years ago. And in Russia, they passed in some way the EVA EVA program from Moscow to St. Petersburg. So we have this, and I was not neglecting, but I like to add very important EVA Paris. From 2 years in EVA, in Paris, we have EVA Paris with Janet and Tripoli, very active. So we have this London, Florence, Berlin, Paris in Europe. Also, if England is out, but I say in Europe. We have in Jerusalem, very near to us, the EVA, and in St. Petersburg, which is very near also to us. So these are the yearly EVA events we have maintained from many years, and I hope they will continue to go on with the local organizers. I am organizer of EVA Florence, because each of the town, London is very big, also in some way Berlin is very big, Florence is not so big, but is important anyway. We have created in many years, 30 years, 20 years, 15 years. Paris is more new, 2 years, but anyway, we have created one EVA group. I have my EVA team in Florence, very active, and with the difficulties which we are growing because economic crisis is also apart COVID-19. We speak later today little on COVID-19 epidemic, but apart the epidemic, in last years to find a local economic resource to organize the EVA events became anytime more difficult. But we were and we are able to go on. Anyway, we have a new suggestion by some of our EVA group to create more strictly. Yes, we have EVA network, international EVA network, but to create a more strong committee coordinating all the European, near Europe EVA, and the initiative in all the world. So my proposal I already sent to all the papers, authors, and the other ones, is to have in next month when we can travel with safe approach and not COVID-19 or coronavirus near us, to have in Florence a meeting where we define a kind of a new committee and a new strategy, or we go on the last strategy in the last years with reinforcement of some lines. Indeed, we did in 10 years ago, in 2010, 10 years ago, we did one important meeting in Florence where we had Berlin, EVA London, EVA St. Petersburg, and they connected also, if I remember, EVA Jerusalem also not present, probably all the meeting. And we did an agreement, which is still available, where the agreement is saying that we cooperate, we try to do many more efforts in culture, technology, science, and art, and to try to involve new topics, as we have done, we are doing now more and more, which are very important. Epidemic is unfortunately not a topic near EVA, but by some point of view, as we have discussed with some of you, I don't go in details now, our EVA community in the world having very important representation in the United States, Japan, Canada, Russia, China, and so on, can be one instrument to give a message also to political people or to administration, government people, that first of all, science and art, or as we say more times, technology and culture, or culture and technology, is very important for the present and the future. In particular, culture, in the broad sense, when we say culture, is not only museum, library, or archaeological site, but culture is for us creativity, modern art, digital art. So culture can really go to also political people or to big organizations like European Commission or science research in the United States and Japan and so on, to give some recommendations that first, culture is very important, that the man in the future must consider to preserve the culture, the art, but to preserve the earth we are going to climate change and climate transformation. Some people say that epidemic is a consequence of the transformation of the climate due to the man. I don't believe so in strict way, but sure, the man influence in the world is so strong with pollution, unfortunately, and the other actions that political people, the United Nations, discuss continuously to try to limit these man efforts in the world. But I think, concluding that, in conclusion, that we go again in the brainstorm in the late morning when I speak about COVID-19. But I think that the influence, the EVA community, international EVA network in particular, can give in the world to have a more attention to culture, art, science, technology, but to our earth. So I am waiting the president. I ask again to Enrico Vicario if he's here. Vicario, you are on the line?
Oh, yes.
You are on the line. I give you the speech.
Oh. Thank you, Vito. Not to say much. I thank you for inviting me to spend a few words. I talk in the role of head director of the Department of Information Engineering, which is the department where Vito has served for many years, and which was somehow shaped by Vito himself. And so he invited me to say a few words, and just to say something, I was wondering about this conference that is now at the 30th edition, which is a very long track. And so the point is why this conference is able to go ahead for so many years and be continuously in Florence year by year. And so one aspect of the answer is that Vito is somehow inexhaustible in his activity and in his will. And the other point, and this is the only contribution that I can give as a remark, is that somehow this conference brings together 2 points, 2 issues on which Florence has a relevant tradition. Of course, not symmetric, but these are 2 points. On the one, Florence is, of course, one of the cities of art, is, of course, a fundamental place for all the world when we talk about art and history. And this is great and does not need that I add anything. The other point is that Florence also has a very relevant tradition in the area of information and communication technologies. This starts somehow since the beginning of the past century, in the 20s and also in the 30s and also in the first years after the war. There was here a very, very relevant tradition coming from the area of optics and physics. Even Enrico Fermi has been teaching at the University of Florence for some years. And many other very, very relevant people in the area of electromagnetism, radio communications, and electronics. And this tradition has then continued in the area of imaging and image processing. And by the way, Vito was one of the cornerstones of this tradition. And so this story continues until now and still has, there is a very clear track of this tradition. And so the point is that this conference, EVA, somehow, no, not somehow, clearly combines together these 2 points. And this is apparently one of the reasons for the force of this initiative. So I'm very happy that this conference is being held this year too, which is particularly hard for all of us. At the same time, I must also say that this is forcing to experience some ways of interaction on which exactly this conference and similar initiative have made relevant experiments in the past years. So even if this year is so strange, I see that there is some strong sign of continuity, and this is very encouraging for all of us. So I hope and I wish that this story will continue this way, to have a success this year, but go on also in the next years. And that's all I would say.
Enrico Vicario, thank you very much. I can say you are one of my students, ex-student, because I have so many ex-students. And he is now director of the important information engineering department, who is probably, you can, I am near sure, one of the largest of Florence University. Thank you, Enrico Vicario, very, very, very much. Now we are very, very near to the arrival of the President Eugenio Gianni, and I ask he will be the chairman after the talk by Gianni and by Paolo Castellacci of the first session. I have in my right Professor Paolo Blasi, who was my rector many years ago. How many? He was 8 years. 8 anni? He was a rector for 8 years, so 2 times rector. And before to give him shortly few preliminary words waiting for the president, I say only one thing he has done in Florence, Tuscany, unique. He proposed and started to realize the largest campus near the airport, which exists now with, I think, about 3,000–4,000 researchers, adding together, this is very important, University of Florence and the National Research Council. I am honored to say that I started my activity in National Research Council many, many years ago. He created the agreements, the contract to extend in this big area near the airport, we call Sesto Fiorentino Polo di Ricerca Scientifica. But Paolo, say a few words, lens and so on, a few words.
Thank you, Vito. So one word to justify Eugenio Gianni, why he is not here. Eugenio Gianni is known in Tuscany as a person. Yes, generally is known as a person which is able to be at the same time in 2–3 places. So we don't lose the hope that he will come here, but is engaged in the election procedure. So we can now start with the session 1, strategic issues.
Devo chiamare Rosanna. Arriva il Presidente. Va bene, allora dici tu della tua storia. Dici qualcosa di te, via. No, io.
Yes. No, first I have to say that as this is the 30th event of IVA, probably it's time that people like me and Vito can be retired and substituted by youngest, because we are all over 80. Now, what I can say is that the research activities are important to provide to the technological activities the knowledge to have innovation in technology, because innovation technology come from the research results, and the research can go on using the new technologies. So it's a kind of will that put together research and innovation technology. So this is why it's important that the department, physics, electronics, etc. department should be connected with enterprises that collect the knowledge from the university and national councils of research to be able to innovate. This has been the reason why in Florence and in Tuscany there are so many enterprises, sometimes small, but very, very innovative. So this is what I can say. È quello che ho detto.
No, ma a te stesso sei nell'Elena. Sei nell'Elena.
Okay, so I think just I've established the connection between research and innovation. We know that the COVID-19 has showed the very importance of ICT, and this pandemic produce a big step forward in utilize such technologies and from everybody. So this is a positive fallout of the bad pandemic. So now we can start with the session first. Now, Vito Cappellini stopped me, so we can continue, and when the president will arrive, we just make a stop. So, the first session, strategic issues, start with the digital renaissance from Da Vinci to Turing. And the speaker is Jonathan Bowen from London South Bank University.
Hello, everyone.
I give the floor.
Thank you.
Yes?
Can everyone hear me? I'm going to try and do a presentation with PowerPoint. So just a moment. So hopefully on your screen now you should see my first slide if all is working. I'm presenting for myself and Tula Giannini, who is in New York, so it's not yet myself. I'm doing the presentation. I won't try and emulate what's in the paper exactly, because I've only got about 12 minutes, but I'll try and give you a little overview. And also, coming from EVA London, I'll tell you a little bit about that, because we're going to discuss international issues later. So the paper sort of compares Leonardo da Vinci with Alan Turing. I think Tula Giannini has really looked at Da Vinci a bit more than me, at all these codexes and so on. I, as a computer scientist, have looked at Turing a little more. We've noticed some similarities, parallels between the two. So, of course, Leonardo was born somewhat before Turing. He lived a little bit longer than Turing. Interestingly, their dates of birth and death, if you move the the numbers around, they've got almost the same numbers in the two. So, but both of them, I think we can think of both of them, certainly everyone would call them geniuses. And both, interestingly, are also polymaths. They both had wide range of interests. Obviously, Leonardo, art and technology. Turing probably more science and mathematics in general, but he wrote poetry. He certainly had wide interests. And I suppose another well, they were both gay, and that meant they were both persecuted, which is rather sad, but they both did brilliant things during their life. So, as I said, Tula Giannini has looked at the various codexes or codices of Leonardo da Vinci, and there's quite a lot online. This is rather a nice site. All the links for these are in the paper, which I'll tell you where it is later. This is one of the codices where you can actually visualize the whole codex. So each one of these little squares or rectangles is a page, and you can click on one of these. Whoops. Let me just start again. I'll go back. I won't actually try it online, but you can click on one of those and see the page. And you also notice on the right there, they've all been classified into different things on each page. So there's quite a lot of nice online exhibitions like this available, all about Leonardo, obviously with his celebrations recently. And there's a link down there to see it. Now they both, I guess, were both interested in biology and living things, perhaps in slightly different ways. Here's two examples of drawings. One on the left is by Leonardo. The one on the right is by Turing in the Turing Digital Archive, where he was interested in morphogenesis, how shapes develop and so on. So although Turing was a mathematician, he was interested in applying this to all sorts of different fields, computer science, which is obviously my field, also to biology, to artificial intelligence, and if he'd lived longer, I think also to physics, because he was looking at quantum effects towards the end of his life. So I can highly recommend the Turing archive, which we've used for the paper, where you can see a lot of original material in very good quality. So some of it obviously already published, but quite a lot of it is not in the literature. So it's still worth going and having a look at that, which we've done for a few interesting pieces. So Leonardo da Vinci has had some very nice exhibitions. More recently, also in London, there was an exhibition on artificial intelligence, which Turing was very much involved with his Turing test. And this is just some examples from that. This was at the Barbican. Sadly, it's obviously not on now, but that was a very good exhibition as well. I guess Tula is also interested in art, music, etc. So this is and poetry. So this is a little poem by Tula. She likes to put poems in a paper. You probably won't have time to read it now, but this is in the paper, so you're very welcome to go and have a look at that. And more on Leonardo da Vinci. I guess he also compared, looking at his drawings, also looking at pictures of the time. So all this is sort of compared in the paper. But also Tula is a very good musician. So she looks at the music at the time of Leonardo, including Philippe Berdelot, who was born in France but died in Florence. So Leonardo should have been, I imagine, aware of his work. So this is a sad time, obviously. It's very nice that we can all get together like this, but I'd like to dedicate this paper, which we've now done, to Kim Veltman, who very sadly died recently. He's a friend of Eva. He gave a keynote at Eva London twice. This was on his last speech in 2017. So he's a great friend of Eva. He was a wonderful person. If you ever met him, he's the sort of person you wouldn't forget. Always had a twinkle in his eye and so on. So he was a historian of art, both art and science. So that's a nice connection between the two, especially with Leonardo. And in fact, he was particularly a Leonardo da Vinci scholar. So in the updated version of the paper, we referenced him on his Leonardo work. But sadly, he was a victim of COVID on April 1st. So we'd like to dedicate this paper to him. Also, of course, we have to say thank you very much to Vito and all the Florence team from Eva London. I'm one of the co-organisers of Eva London now. It's wonderful that you managed to have this online event for the day. We're actually monitoring this as Eva London because we delayed our event, which should have been on the 6th to the 10th of July. But we decided to delay it till November. So we are planning an event in November on the week of the 16th. Originally, we thought perhaps by then we'd be able to have a physical meeting, but we have it at the BCS in London, and it's impossible to do that now. They're closed till the beginning of next year at the very earliest. So we are planning an online event, probably something like this, but we may have some other events. So during the week, we're going to have different things going on, and we're still deciding exactly how to do that. And we'll certainly be feeding back how well this event goes. I think we will have a day like this as part of the week, but perhaps some other events as well. We do have the proceedings out already. We decided to go ahead with that, so they're online. There's the DOI there at the bottom. I can try and put this online, but you can search for Eva London 2020. It's in the Science Open, sort of open access website. So all the papers are there to see already. And we're gradually collecting together some talks. So some people like to do recorded talks. So that website there, evalondon.org, we're collecting talks together, which people can watch whenever they want. So just to look at a few associated papers. So there is a paper with this. It's in the proceedings that you should have got WeTransfer, but that's a cut down version. We cut out, sadly, most of the pictures to make it fit. But we do have a full length version that we've also done a bit more editing on, that you can find on this website, SOC Archive Papers. I think if you type that into Google, you'll find it. So there's the DOI for this paper, which we put online already. And you're welcome to go and download that and look at it. We were also planning a sort of sister paper, because Tula is very good at writing a lot. I do my best at editing what she does. And in the end, we decided we had so much material that there was really 2 papers worth of material. So this is the sister paper that was due to appear at Eva London. It's online already in the proceedings of that DOI that you can see there. And hopefully we'll do an online presentation of that in November. We also wrote a book together, Museums and Digital Culture. So that's really where this collaboration came from. And that's the ISBN and DOI that you're welcome to go and look at if you want. Sadly, costs rather a lot coming from Springer. But, and also, because we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. Again, we were going to have a big event at EVA London, and I wrote a paper with my experience with Jim, obviously starting with EVA London 30 years ago. My involvement only started about 25 years ago. So this is a recent history with a personal view of EVA London, bringing in, there's some mentions of EVA Florence as well. So if you're interested in a little bit of history of EVA London particularly, but also EVA in general, then that paper may be of interest. And you'll find that at that DOI. So I'd like to say thank you very much to Vito. I don't know if my time is up now. I'm happy to answer questions if it's possible. If it's not, then please do email me. You have my email address there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I give it to Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think we can go on to the new. I don't know, there is some question.
Perhaps it's best by email. But, obviously, anything to do with EVA London and EVA International, we're having a session later at 12:45, I think. So we'll have more discussion there as well.
We can go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next subject is channeling at-work content for visually impaired people. And I think the speaker is Cantoni.
Yes, here
Professor
I am.
Cantoni,
Yes.
Computer Vision and Multimedia Lab, University di Pavia.
Yes. How can I?
Okay, you have the floor.
Yes, I need to share my monitor. What can I do? What can I do to share the monitor? Here.
Virginio.
Yes, I need to share the
volume on the right. So if you click on the screen,
Yeah.
dico in italiano, in basso a destra ti compare presenta ora.
Eccomi.
Quando lo clicchi ti compare l'icona dello schermo.
Sì, ecco.
Lo schermo e a quel punto è condiviso.
Perfetto, fatto.
Ottimo, sta arrivando.
Sta arrivando. Okay, let me say that I am very happy to be here with you in this special edition of the EVA conference. The subject is to communicate artwork to visually impaired people. So we started this activity in at the beginning of this millennium, in fact, with a version of the Mattina of Vasari. And in that case, it was for visually impaired people, just an architecture, the Mattina of Vasari. The very first case that of what I am going to present is instead for the Expo 2015. And we started for hypovision people, with blind people, and blind with different kind of blind, people blind since the birth, and people instead that has the idea of the 3D and so on. And we did this first activity for the Expo in Milan, to present the Battle of Pavia, the battle between the Holy Empire and the French. Francis V, Francis I. We presented to hypovision people the 7th tapestry that described 7th phase of the battle. Later we evolved, and I will arrive to present what we are doing. We have done, in fact, for in this new year, in this last year, for the Mattina, capital of culture in Italy, a particular phrase, a particular picture, in fact. So the first activity has been the Battle of Pavia, and as you can see, this the Battle of Pavia has been accomplished in the park of this castle. And starting from the site of the Expo, the 2015 in Milan, this exhibition has been moved to inside the battle of inside the castle of the battle. In particular, I will go to speak about this, that is the didactic and experiential room. Here there were some tapestry, some of the tapestry that now are in a museum in Naples, a presentation with a traditional son and lumiere of the tapestry, but here a new way to present this tapestry with different workstation that can I will shortly describe, in fact, what we did for the first time, that exploiting the suggestion, it was just the period of the new media consortium, so natural user interface, a way to interact with the picture through voice and movement, and in particular also the accessibility, the developing of strategy for giving the opportunity, giving the possibility to work with also with problem like people with hypovision. Here it is in a sense represented. Here is when we were in Milan, just in the Expo. You see some of the character of the battle that has been printed by the student, and here you see someone that is touching the tactile image of the fresco. The principle, in fact, is here. You can see that there are relief, there are blind character, and there are contours that are put in evidence on the basis of the relief. So the way to communicate is through primitives that are morphological primitives. This is a leg of a horse. This is a sword. This is so morphological primitives, character, and obviously some knowledge about the content of the picture. So here in detail, you can see one of the tapestry. The tapestry were 4 meters by 7 meters, so very large. Each tapestry, there are 7 tapestries. This is one of the first. You see the French that are surrounded by the army of the whole empire. Here there is the King of France, Francis I, Gouffier, that was the people, the guy that planned the battle, and so on. There are many. It was one of the first, in fact, battle solved by the arquebuse. You see, surrounding the head of the French army are the people with the arquebuse. So, starting from this, you can see here semantic segmentation of the picture. The black part are in relief, the white part with the contour, the red contour are everywhere. The white part are instead on the background, and you can see here 3D printing respecting the chromaticity of the picture for hypovision people, but that can be utilized also by the blind people, in fact, through the modality that I spoke about. As you can see here, there is the character. Here there is Francis I, and Francis, the area of Francis, the segment of Francis I is full of F. Also, from the mnemonic point of view, one can remember F in Braille. So with an inspection to the finger, one can realize that here there is the King of France, it's on a horse, here are the leg, has a sword in this sense, in front there is another guy. There were a short legend that describing shortly, like you can have a guide visiting a museum, describe shortly the content, and one can interpret the action that is going on in that way. The point was this first case was particularly simple because a bottle, the information that you can have in the bottle are the principal character of the bottle, and there are people with arquebus, people with sword, but it's easy to interpret the action. Here there is a presentation of what was the production. You have in the legenda with braille and in clear character. The base is the lower part of the tapestry. Here the semantic, and here you have one of the first presentation of the Pavia in that period, printed in 3D with full color and in evidence the characteristic. So this was the very first. Here another example. The second case that we did was also the second case simple. It was a successful case because it's still presented. This has been done 3 years ago, but is still visitable in the Pinacoteca of Brera, that is one of the gallery most important of Italy, like close, let me say, to the one of Uffizi in Florence. In the right part, you have here a description, as I said, who was the author, in this case Carracci, the painter. It's a painting of the Renaissance, the author, the characteristic of the painting, and the character. You see here, this, if I remember, is E. There is Jesus Christ. So touching here, you can you can know that in that area, in that segment, that is Jesus Christ. Here is the Samaritan woman at the well, and the Samaritan woman is I. So there is a way to code the character. Any problem? No, let me go on. So this is another case that was particularly simple. What I am going to present now, this is an enlargement of detail. You can see how you can follow the contour and can read what is inside that contour. Now, this is the opening that we did in the Pinacoteca of Brera. There were 3 different associations of blind people and hypovision people. People, as I said, with hypovision. Here is the presentation of the tactile image that is 40 by 70, so it's easily managed in a literal sense. With hand, you can easily contact and relieve what it was. And there were the 2 blind from the birth and the other. It has been, as I said, successful, and we had the plan to realize, at least for each room of the Pinacoteca, one of these one picture with this version, so to establish a path also for blind people. More difficult with different characteristics. So more difficult was what we did for Maratea, capital of the culture, of last year. In fact, we have realized a tactile version of a painting, just one painting that was 18 meter and a half by 3.20, describing a very complex situation. Is not as simple as the one that we have described previously. Here is the complete painting, and here you have the three phase, just to present here now, but an enlargement. You can see here the life in the cave. Let me say something about the author. The author is Carlo Levi, that wrote Jesus Christ Stopped in Eboli, that present in literature the Italy Southern question. This picture is the painting version of just Jesus Christ Stop in Eboli. You have here the life that you have in this region, in Maratea in particular. Here, the people that come from the country, the worker, and here the Rocco Scotellaro, that is the principal character of the story, that here is very young, presented very young. Here that is, it has been also measure of a town in that area. Here is speaking to the people to try to introduce innovation in that way of working. And here you can see the way of living. The way of living inside, we call that sassi, stone. In fact, some cave. And here is the die when he died. What the author, is, in order to prepare this, is used a well-known photographer of the time, Marco Carbone, that make real picture, take to inspire the painter, take real picture of the life in that area. This is the mother of Rocco Scotellaro. You see here in taken by the photographer, and here is the version that has been introduced. Here there are many characters. Let me just go on very fast in this. Here a character well known. These real people. Here you have photograph and the way to the scene of real life that you have. The bread, the typical bread of the area.
Virgilio, you must conclude. Excuse me, but you must conclude.
I will conclude immediately. There is an improvement in this sense, because the history to be presented was very complicated. You have here the politicians that look to the situation, but are on the window, are not working directly on the job. There are many well-known people of the period, Umberto Sava, Renato Guttuso, and so on, important people of the culture, and this is the realization. What we are now to work on is to present dynamically this kind of content. So with the displaying the monitor display, in which tactile is fact monitor, in which you can realize and to describe in sequence complex scene with literature recall, with many complex concepts, in order to be able to convey not trivial scene, but exploiting completely the modality that I have presented previously. I think I can conclude here. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. Very, very stimulating and interesting. So now we go to the next subject, a new principle for next generation, FTV. Masayuki Tanimoto. You are here? You have the floor? Masayuki Tanimoto. He's not here. Hirokuni Kurokawa? Ah, okay. Tanimoto, I see you. You have the floor. We don't hear your voice.
Okay, I want to share my
Okay.
PowerPoint.
Okay, now Okay, you have the floor.
Yes.
A new principle for next generation FTV.
Yes. No.
You have between 10 and 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, you have the floor.
No. How can I share my PowerPoint? Can you hear me? I want to show
Yes.
my PowerPoint.
We can see and we can hear you.
But
Yes, can you speak?
you can see my PowerPoint.
Okay?
No. Do you understand what I say? Can I see my PowerPoint on my computer? Can someone help? I want to share my PowerPoint on my computer.
You need to select present now at the bottom right of your screen.
Which side? I see many your views, but how?
Move your mouse to the bottom of the screen.
Sorry?
Move your mouse to the bottom of the screen. You should see an extra bar with Present Now on it.
Can you see my PowerPoint? Hello, can you see my PowerPoint?
No, you need Present Now.
No, I'm asking you.
No, we can't.
Can you see my PowerPoint? Okay.
No. Take the cursor right down to the bottom. Take the cursor right down, and suddenly a new line will appear, and it will say Present Now on the right. Take the cursor right down.
Is your cursor at the bottom of the screen?
Take the cursor down.
Yes.
And then on the right.
Then on the right.
Present Now. On the right.
On the right.
Present Now.
Now.
A little box on the right.
A little box on the right.
Yeah. There's a box with a cross in it, and it says Present Now.
Yes. I'm pressing share, but I can't push this button.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give me a role of host to me. Yes, I'm a guest, so I should be host to share my PC. No?
Can you see a bar says meeting details at the bottom of the screen? With your cursor at the bottom. Is your cursor at the bottom of the screen?
I suggest maybe switch presenters in the meantime, and can come back to this presentation later.
I'm still looking. Please change the order of presentation. It's okay?
There's the chair.
Hello? Please change presentation. Order of presentation.
I can't see Drew Harrison either. Can the chair hear us or not?
Who is the chair of
The chair has left his chair.
Ah.
We see you and we hear you, but we don't see any slides.
Yeah, it's that problem. So please change the order of presentation.
Order, okay.
Order.
Go on. Okay.
No. It means the next presenter, please do first. I want to be afterward. Do you understand?
Well, I can't see Drew Harrison, but I can see the next one.
Okay.
Nikolai Borisov.
I am here.
Masayuki, I am Vito. Masayuki, I know that you have some problem in connection. You can speak eventually later. If you adjust your computer to the video conference, you can speak later when you are ready. Okay?
Yes, later.
Okay, so we go on, but we wait for you. When you are ready, you press the red and we give a talk to you. So we go on waiting that you are ready, okay? You speak later. Prepare yourself.
Thank you.
Masayuki, you can send your presentation to anybody who will show on their own screen. If you
we can shift to the next speaker. Meanwhile, you have to arrange okay. So now we go to Drew Harrison from the University of Wolverhampton, Faculty of Arts, UK, mixing realities for heritage and health. Linfra means between the real and the virtual. Drew Harrison, you have the floor. You hear me? Drew Harrison.
He's not there in the list.
He's not there.
The next speaker is there.
So is Drew Harrison is not there. We can shift to the last speaker, Borisov.
I am here.
From St. Petersburg University, integrating multimedia collections. You are there? You can
here.
speak. You have the floor, please. Borisov.
Sorry, I shall open my presentation. Is it open, my presentation?
No.
No. Select present now at the bottom.
Present now.
Oh, okay. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's working now. Okay,
Good morning.
go on.
Good morning, colleagues. Greeting from St. Petersburg. First of all, I can say thank you very much to Vito Capellini and organizing committee to invite myself to EVA 2020 Florence video conference. I shall describe you some problems with multimedia collection integrating. First of all, why we are interested in multimedia collections. From our point of view, electronic collections of multimedia documents are formed as a result of researches in a variety of fields: archaeology, ethnography, folkloristic, linguistic, and so on. Multimedia materials often most adequately describe the results of scientific researches in humanities and national sciences. Scientific multimedia journals are examples of such electronic collections. Multimedia collections may contain various multimedia data, from text, quantitative data, raster and vector graphics, up to 3D models, virtual reality, map data. A number of tools allowing to pass metadata to various integrators and aggregators, both general purpose and specialized, have been developed. Leading companies, IT companies such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter have developed their own mechanism on information specification based on metadata. We know international standard of Dublin core metadata, and Google Scholar developed their own metadata to describe bibliographic information. You see metadata of Google Scholar. Facebook specialist, in order to control where to link and display when publishing a link on social network and transmitting information, develop open graph metadata. And additional protocols such as OAI PMH are often used for the purpose of collecting or processing metadata. These different possibilities allows us to implement vertical integration between electronic documents. Interaction with integrators and aggregation enables access to a wide variety of collection, but preclude direct inclusion of elements in remote collection in one's own research. From other side, at the same time, the whole range of web services such as social networks, GIS, media servers provide options for integration of their functional elements to third parties, such as, for example, Google Maps. Such an integration is based on providing access to appropriate web API. We discuss framework which would allow to directly integrate arbitrary elements of the remote multimedia collection to new content through web interface without special software on your computer. Why we have some problems in this area? If you prepare some mathematical paper and you need to cite some theorem from another paper, you can put the text of this theorem in your text and give adequate reference, and it's no problem. But if you develop some scientific article with multimedia content, and you want to cite some multimedia content from other article, for example, 3D model or virtual reality scene, how it's possible to organize without using some additional special software, only using some the possibilities of web interface. And we try to develop such open source possibilities, open source system for such possibilities. We call this horizontal integration, and we need development of tool for special fragments of remote resources, development of a code generation tool for inserting fragments from remote resources to our own resources, automatic generation of unsure ID fragments. Of course, we have some problems on this way in identifying of content fragments, using fragments of remote content, API development, convenient toolkit for selecting arbitrary fragments and exporting as code, presentation, formatting of elements on a remote site. There are some approaches how it's possible to realize such implementation of integration, horizontal integration. First, one way is developing special code written by, for example, in JavaScript, which would download necessary data by running one or more cross-domain queries and then insert result data into the target page. The main problem is that all modern browsers restrict cross-domain scripting for security reasons. Another way of implementation of horizontal integration using XML HTTP requests, the specification of asynchronous requests, which allows using cross-domain queries, albeit with certain limitations restricting, for example, which domains are allowed to connect, which HTTP methods are available, so on. The main problem is with this approach is that using cross-domain queries consists in the lack of browser support of them and in the need of additional configuration of source server, source site web server, which may not permitted by site's hosting provider. Our approach to designing a platform that would allow integrating multimedia electronic collections into client resources is the parallel development of API server of online dynamic code generation toolkit and an online dynamic code generation toolkit based on this API. The main requirements for development of this toolkit: the ability for all elements of the collection pages of unique identifiers that can be passed to an API. The generation of the full HTML code, complete with CSS, class definition, and JS code, for transmission of formatting of the client through an iframe using CRC code attribute. The transmission during the API deployment fires the text data directly and information about multimedia objects through reference. The instrumental platform we develop in two directions. One for special creation and support multimedia, general multimedia collection, and another for creation and support online multimedia scientific journal. This integrated approach to development both directions we accomplish by creation of installer that allows you to deploy a system on the standard modern virtual hosting. For the efforts of articles with multimedia content, tools have been developed for online loading and editing article multimedia contents through the corresponding web interface. I will show you shortly such interfaces. This is selection multimedia article, this editing text component, editing image component, slideshow component, video component. And you see the article component is, in some sense, the article present as the sequence of multimedia objects. You can see our alpha version of this instrument on our website, and we use this instrument information multimedia international journal, multimedia magazine. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your interesting now I go back to Masayuki Tanimoto.
Yes.
Have you succeeded?
Yes, maybe okay.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Yes. Can you see my slide? Hello? Can you see
Very
my
good.
slide?
Okay.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Go on.
Yes, thank you. My presentation is a new principle for next generation FTV. FTV, free viewpoint television, is a visual media that enables users to view a 3D scene by freely changing the viewpoint as if they were actually there. Viewpoint is changed by this sliding bar. FTV was introduced by IEEE Signal Processing Society. Please see first this video.
Free Viewpoint Television, or FTV, allows users to freely change the camera's perspective during video playback, virtually bringing them into the scene as if they were actually there. This technology has two unique and exciting applications: free navigation and realistic 3D viewing. With free navigation, a viewer uses a controller to change the viewpoint, giving the impression that the camera is physically moving from one point to another. This effect is created using simultaneous data from multiple stationary cameras arranged in configurations such as linear, planar, circular, or spherical. Multiple cameras are used to provide occlusion information, areas that can be seen from one viewpoint but not another, and to provide critical 3D information of the scene. When we look out from a moving vehicle, objects that are closer to us seem to move faster than objects that are further away. Using additional cameras, this distance information can be calculated relative to the viewer by using signal processing, which is then processed to create virtual views where there is no camera. The viewer can then experience seamless walkthrough or flyover perspectives of a real scene using a standard 2D display. One exciting application of this technology would allow you to watch a sporting event from any angle or location you wanted, from the bleachers right to the field. With realistic 3D viewing, many views are created simultaneously through signal processing and then rendered on a super multi-view 3D display. Users can experience the scene from various angles and enjoy immersive 3D viewing without special glasses. Alternatively, the scene could be rendered on a wall-type 3D display, which could instantly bring any environment imaginable right around you. FTV technology has the potential to completely revolutionize the way we experience media by breaking down the barrier between viewer and subject, allowing us to see the world like never before.
Okay, MPEG has been developing FTV standards since 2004. First phase, second phase, and the third phase. And JPEG is also interested in my FTV, and I gave an invited talk at the JPEG Geneva meeting. 2022 FIFA World Cup Japan Bid Committee planned to deliver the excitement on soccer stadium to the world by FTV. Please see this promotion video.
FIFA World Cup, the next generation, produced by Japan. Japan presents a World Cup full of new excitement and inspiration.
Free viewpoint vision will take the passion and the excitement of football to the next dimension.
Powerful, immersive viewing takes you onto the pitch to view the world's best plays, changing the game from one you watch to one you participate in.
We want the people in the world to enjoy this ultimate football experience, which absorbs them into the game. Japan Bid Committee targeted two applications of FTV. One is free navigation, and another one is aerial 3D image. Free navigation was already realized. This is an example of free navigation of Rugby World Cup 2019. This free navigation was produced by Canon. So the next target is aerial 3D image. This slide shows some examples. This one is a scene of Star Wars. This is a movie and not real one, but right side is real aerial 3D image. Aerial 3D image needs many photorealistic generated views. We developed view generation method based on ray space. The ray space is a parameter space where one ray in real space is expressed by 1 point. This is real space, this is ray space. One ray is expressed by position and direction. So in total, 4 parameters, uza, eta, and theta phi. So this ray is expressed by 1 point in 4-dimensional ray space. This slide shows 2 typical view generation methods for FTV. One is model-based, another one is image-based. Image-based method uses rays for view generation, and we can generate very realistic, photorealistic views. But view generation range is narrow. On the other hand, the model-based method uses geometry, but the view quality is less than this one, but it has a very wide view generation range. Aerial 3D image needs photorealistic views with wide view generation range. So we need the advantages of both methods. we use geometrical structure of ray space, not geometry of real space, but we use geometric structure of ray space. It has such a structure. Such a specific structure. We use this geometric structure for view generation. Surface direction and shape are derived from three slanted views using a geometric structure of ray space. This is three views, or not front views, three slanted views with different directions. We use such data, then we can determine surface generation, and then we obtain the front view. This gives surface shape. It means we can generate surface direction and shape from ray space data. Then we can generate surfaces constructed in real space. In conclusion, FTB has two promising applications, pre-navigation and aerial 3D image. Pre-navigation was already realized, and the next target is aerial 3D image. Surface direction and shape are successfully derived from a ray space so that both ray and geometry can be used for view generation. This provides a new principle for next generation FTB. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope that for the football championship in 2022, we could see in 3D the football match. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Professor Blasi. He's going to other engagements. I know he's very busy. Finito.
Now, the last, Dew Harrison. Is connected, Dew Harrison? Dew Harrison, are you connected? Thank you,
Thank you. Vabbè, è un caso lo fa parlare dopo.
Ok.
Vai pure.
We can close the section. Thank you to all the speakers.
I take the chairmanship for 10 minutes. I ask pardon to my international friends. I will speak in Italian now for 10 minutes, but later I will synthesize you because I like to have the registration just 20 minutes ago of our president Eugenio Gianni in Italian, addressed more to Tuscany enterprise, but I think it is important for all. It is in Italian. I will synthesize. I ask to Regia, Rosanna, digli se sono pronti a mandare. Se sono pronti a mandare, andiamo. Mandate pure. Faccio una introduzione. Era previsto appunto all'inizio della mattina, in realtà siamo arrivati praticamente a metà mattina inoltrata, che il presidente Eugenio Gianni del Consiglio regionale dava un messaggio soprattutto alle imprese toscane sulla visione che lui, come attuale presidente del Consiglio regionale, ma lo sanno tutti anche come candidato a governatore nelle prossime elezioni, voleva dare alle imprese. Io parlo del distretto ferroviario di Pistoia, che sono già tantissime, ma anche tante imprese che sono collegate con noi. Quindi ora in 2 minuti o 3 dovrebbe partire questa registrazione fatta come fosse dal vivo pochi minuti fa, in cui lui indirizza soprattutto alle imprese toscane che sono collegate con noi, ripeto, del distretto ferroviario di Pistoia, ma non solo, un suo messaggio, quindi reale, cioè di pochi minuti fa. Si scusa, ma è dovuto partire un attimo, può darsi anche che rientri, ma direi che questo messaggio che ci ha lasciato registrato è molto completo, sintetico ma molto completo. Io l'ho sentito in parte, lo sentirò anch'io insieme a voi per primo ora appena lo mettono in onda, ma stanno per mettere in onda qui la regia del Consiglio regionale, quindi dovrebbe essere fra pochi minuti in diretta, diciamo in semidiretta, cioè con un piccolo ritardo dalla sua prima registrazione, che è di 20 minuti fa, questo suo importante messaggio. Dico che, diciamo, avendo parlato con lui evidentemente in questi giorni, lui è molto sensibile, come tutti noi, alla crisi che stiamo vivendo, in particolare in Italia, dove siamo in un momento più favorevole, ma in tutto il mondo, e comunque pensando ora alla Toscana, che ha per fortuna una situazione di Covid-19 abbastanza buona, c'è però la crisi economica che ci ha toccato profondamente come tutte le regioni italiane e come direi tutto il mondo. E allora questo messaggio diciamo che fra poco dovrebbe andare in onda. Allora mandate pure in onda. Il messaggio arriva ora, eccolo. Sì. Allora dovrebbe arrivare ora il messaggio. Io levo anche la mia. Sono in collegamento con la regia, ma dovrebbe. Qualche minuto di attesa perché siamo tutto in tempo reale, videoconferenza per la prima volta in 30 anni in EVA e per la prima volta questi esperimenti anche di media intrallacciati, io lo dico in termini un po' popolare, che si inseguono uno dopo l'altro. Dovrebbe essere ora il messaggio. Ci manca l'audio. Sto sperimentando queste tecnologie in tempo reale. Non c'è la voce, non capisco come mai. Abbiamo 200 collegamenti in tutto il mondo. Allora, mentre stanno sperimentando di far vedere, oltre che l'immagine, la voce che è importantissima, ripeto che i messaggi che dovrebbe ora, speriamo di sentirli in vivo, diciamo, insieme da parte del Presidente Eugenio Giani, sono appunto rivolti in particolare a tutte le nostre imprese per dare, io credo anche da un punto di vista attuale di Presidente del Consiglio regionale e come appunto candidato a governatore, un messaggio direi di speranza anzitutto, ma di impegno. Ecco, direi quello che mi ha colpito nei colloqui che ho avuto in questi giorni, in questa intervista che ho appena sentito 10 minuti fa dopo che lui l'aveva rilasciata, è questo fortissimo impegno che lui dimostra in questa breve ma importante registrazione di, come si dice, se diventerà governatore della Toscana, mettercela tutta, come si dice noi un po' toscani e in genere anche italiani, per dare veramente una mano in particolare alle imprese grandi, medie, piccole. Aggiungo anche l'artigianato creativo, che sono poi delle imprese che stanno lottando, lo sappiamo benissimo, per sopravvivere, soprattutto quelle più piccole, non avendo avuto diciamo le spalle così larghe come le grandi imprese, quindi dalle grandi alle medie, le piccole. Io intanto ecco cito, perché è anche un mio dovere nell'attesa che si realizzi questo collegamento con l'audio, spero che avvenga. Allora diciamo rimandiamo, sembra che ci sia bisogno di un po' più di tempo, però ormai finisco questa parte italiana e poi riprendiamo l'inglese e avremo dopo il messaggio dal vivo, diciamo, o quasi dal vivo del Presidente. No, dicevo che l'importanza di questo momento che appunto riguardava, come dicevamo, le imprese e anche il settore artigianale e anche il turismo, che è poi un settore per la Toscana trainante, può vedere la conclusione, diciamo, del discorso che si collega perfettamente ad Eva Florence, ma anche all'International Eva Network, come la scienza, la tecnologia e anche la cultura possono evidentemente attraverso le università, la scienza, il CNR, insomma gli organismi, dare un concreto, diciamo più che aiuto, una concreta sinergia con le imprese. Non è avvenuto, io sono universitario, non è avvenuto nel passato questo collegamento, diciamo, effettivamente forte fra ricerca e industria. È il momento ora di dire o ce la facciamo ora o mai. Torno all'inglese. I go back to English saying that we were speaking about Tuscany enterprise and we are waiting a recorded message this morning, few minutes, 20 minutes ago, by the President Eugenio Gianni, who had to leave, but left us a very important message for enterprise in Tuscany in the world. So we go on in the program. We have the second session. I don't say more about the message of the President, who is for the enterprise in Tuscany, I synthesize to connect in a more strict way the research, university, National Research Council, and so on, with the enterprise, from the large to the small and medium. Before, anyway, to go in the second session, if he's on the line, I ask to Paolo Castellacci, who is our sponsor of the big CESA company, to say 2-3 words of welcome to us. Paolo, ci sei?
Sì, ci sono.
Allora, dici 2 parole, vai. In italiano io traduco dopo in inglese.
No, excuse me for my English, but I try in this presentation in English, in Tuscan English, if possible.
Puoi parlare inglese o italiano come vuoi.
I am Paolo Castellacci. Thank you for my friend Vito Cappellini for invitation in this important EVA conference. Is my company is a presentation for my company. my company is in Empoli, close Florence. Is one company for in activity. The activity that my company is the transformation the company in digital application. Cesar is my company. Is a company that born 50 years ago. In this moment is one holding. Una holding is quotata in borsa allo Star di Milano e ha un fatturato revenue di $2 billion. $2 billion and 3,000 people. These people are one competence in software and service. Software specialty in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, working in this moment with this situation in Italy, terrific, but for my company are one opportunity the activity. The result in this year, our year stopped in 30 April is very good result. Important for my company is the opportunity in many activity. The fortune my company is closed 3 university, important university, Pisa, Firenze, Siena. This opportunity is with the division of this university. Quindi good cooperation e abito la parola.
Paolo, I thank you immensely, and we had the documentation by a big company, Cesar, in Empoli, about 3,000 people, 3,000 million. Now we go on the second session 2, where unfortunately we have another paper in time. Andrea De Polo will be later, so we are in time because we have not one paper. The session will be chaired by my co-chairman. I thank him very, very much, Enrico Del Re, who is taking now the chairmanship for session 2.
Okay, thank you, Vito, and good morning to everyone. We resume with session 2, New Science and Culture Developments and Applications. We have 3 presentations because the 4th is missing. The first one is titled A Real-Time Virtual Collection Creator for the iMedia Cities Audiovisual Platform. And will be presented by a group of Visit Lab by Cineca in Bologna, Italy. And the group is of Guidazzoli, Chiavarini, Imboden, De Luca, Montanari, and Ligori. Some of you are online?
Yes, we are. My name is Maria Chiara Ligori, and I'm presenting with my colleague Beatrice Cavallini.
Okay, go on.
So, are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, we see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, this morning we are presenting one of the tools developed at Cineca for the iMedia Cities Horizon 2020 project. The project involved 9 European film archives, 5 research institutions, 2 technological providers, Cineca and Fraunhofer, and the aim was that of sharing, accessing to, and valorizing audiovisual contents about history and identity of European cities for research and for creative purposes. I'm showing you now the trailer of the project.
Però mi sembra strano perché come fai proprio 12? Allora, però io capisco che siamo usciti dai PC.
The project aims at building an effective framework for scholars, allowing the access and the enrichment of digital cultural resources, both manually and automatically, enabling new researches and studies and hopefully aiding new questions to be answered. The innovative aspects of the iMedia City platform are not limited to conveying the audiovisual contents of the 9 archives towards a single collector and access point, but above all includes an advanced series of solutions provided to a research activity carried out on the content itself, such as the processing of the audiovisual contents with a series of algorithms that automatically enrich them with metadata. Here you can see the researcher interface with some of its features. There's the possibility to search by term or by the time bar or the map. And at the moment, the platform hosts nearly 10,000 items with 250 documentaries or movies. Once uploaded on the platform, videos and images are automatically processed in a pipeline that integrates a set of tools provided by Fraunhofer. These algorithms provide information on the quality of video, identify camera movements such as zoom or pan, automatically segment videos into scenes, that is the shots, and identify and recognize objects and various elements through the object detection tool. Since the automatic shot detection tool still has a certain degree of error, a sophisticated online frame-by-frame analysis tool, the shot revision tool, has been set up for the manual correction of inaccuracies and the integration with further metadata. The project was concluded last year, but the film archives have decided to economically sustain the platform. The good outcome of the project has been recognized by the European Union Innovation Radar as a market-ready application. At the moment, an instance of the platform is being customized for another European project, the DARE project. But let us see another specific tool.
Oui, je vois. Et maintenant, tu me vois?
This platform, the Virtual Collection Creator. I give the possibility of talking to my colleague Beatrice.
And good morning to everyone. I'm Beatrice Chiavarini. I hear some echoes.
Parce que là, je vois mon écran, mais je ne vois pas les participants.
If there's some microphone open. I'm going to present the Virtual Collection Creator tool. That is a tool that was made available to the researchers and the archive curators to easily create a virtual exhibition and show in an interactive and engaging way the results of their researches to our wider public. In fact, all the items in the iMedia City platform can be collected by the researchers in their dashboards and organized in thematic collection and automatically published in a 3D web online virtual environment. The gallery has been designed as a modular 3D model that can be automatically shaped to fit the number of items the curators want to visualize in it. For this purpose, a grid cross plan was chosen that is replaced by a simple rectangular room if there are a little number of items. And the maximum number of items that can be displayed was set to 50 in order to allow a comfort visit of the exhibition. Starting from a study on the state of the art on virtual 3D interactive visualization environments, The architecture of the gallery has been designed as a merge between a real environment and an abstraction to surround and enhance whatever kind of items exhibited in it. The navigation is a first-person view point-to-point one in order to simulate a visit on a real gallery where the visitor stands in front of the single exhibit. And all the interaction are point-and-click one, as the application can be used also on touch devices. Next slide, please. The development of the virtual gallery is based on an open source pipeline. Web developing is based on a Django web framework, while the 3D models have been created with Blender, and the Blend for Web framework is used to export and manage the contents in a WebGL-based 3D visualization. In this slide, you can see the workflow for the creation of a virtual gallery. And the researchers can save its search results to a personal private dashboard, that is the one in the picture. The items can be grouped in collection, and a name and a short description of the collection can be given. Clicking on a button, the user can start the creation of a virtual exhibition containing the items of the collection. And the more concurrent processes by different users can be executed at the same time. Once the process starts, server-side, a Python script set up a 3D model on a Blender instance using input data in JSON format coming from the researcher's dashboard. Blender files are arranged to configure the shape and the size of the gallery according to the number and the size of the items that has to be inside the gallery. Once the creation of the 3D environment is complete, models are exported by Blend for Web add-ons as a pair of .json.bin format file, and the client is automatically redirected on the HTML page where the 3D scene is loaded. And now, with the help of my colleague, I will show you an example of a virtual exhibition created by the Istituto Beni Culturali of Emilia-Romagna region on the theme of water. At the beginning, when the application opens, we can see the name of the collection and the short description the researchers gave to the collection on their dashboard.
Je vais vous rappeler, je suis en vidéoconférence.
Now you can enter the gallery. The items, as you can see, are numbered, and the user can freely choose what to see, clicking on the numbered dot. And the dots are numbered as the user can always see how the exhibition curator has imagined the guided visit, the guided tour. As you can see, there are two different kind of items, photographs like this one, or a video shot like the one on the side. And they are differentiated by the shape of the frames, and the script automatically created the right shapes, the right shape frame for the right item. Clicking on the numbered dot, as you can see, you can move from an item to another, and clicking on the item, item metadata coming from the iMedia City platform are displayed. And in the case of video shots like this one, if the user is a registered one, he can see the reproduction of the shot selected by the exhibit curator. Like in this example. A slideshow tool is provided if the user wants to visit the gallery with a guided tour. So with the items one before the other. And speaking about the user experience, we have chosen to use highlighting in order to ease the experience and to highlight what the items can be clicked by the user. And speaking of the architecture, we have chosen to use coaches and human shadows in order to provide the viewers better perceiving of the proportions of the environment. And for all the items in it, the original aspect ratio, as well as the original frame rate from the shots are preserved.
Can you please go toward the conclusion, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, we are concluding. In the conclusion, the architecture of the Gallery Creator tool, as well as the entire Media City platform, was conceived as more flexible possible, and it can be customized for other projects and use cases. And an example is, as my colleague has already said, is the DARE project that is using and going to improve the platform core functionalities. And that's all. Thank all of you. And if there are questions, we are available and glad to answer.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for this presentation, and we can go on the second one, which titled The Transcendence of Visual Music, Creating Images in the Mind and Brain by Terry Trickett by London, UK. Are you online?
I'm here. I'm just...
Okay, you have the floor.
I've just pressed the box below. Can you see anything yet?
Yes, we see you.
I know. Wait a minute.
Your presentation is starting.
No. I'm presenting. Oh. I can't get my I can't get the video to work. Let me try again. I don't know why I didn't.
Okay. Try again. Now we see you.
I know you see me.
Yes, we see you.
I want to get my entire screen. It says I'm presenting my screen, but then it doesn't appear. Do you see my screen?
We see you, but your presentation is not starting.
Perhaps it's best to present a window, Terry.
Can you give the instruction to start the presentation? Otherwise, you can speak only present by voice your presentation. Okay, Terry Trickett, you are not online. We don't see you.
I've just put the microphone back on, and I'm going to present. And I'm going to present verbally. I'm not using any images at all. Can you hear me now? Good.
We see you. We see you.
What I was saying is that Jonathan, who started the proceedings this morning, mentioned that he had been involved in EVA London for all of 20 years. And of course, he and Vito, we referred to James Hemsley, who is a great friend of ours, who started the whole thing in 1990. Now, I'm a comparative newcomer. I arrived at EVA London, I think at the most 5 years ago. So you have to regard me as very much a new boy. But I think I was one of the people who, in London, tended to influence the EVA conference there towards music and the visual interpretation of music. I think since then, there's been quite a few exercises in this direction. It is quite interesting to see that it's become quite a big development in the London scene. My particular interest is because I play the clarinet, I'm an instrumentalist. And also, of course, I'm an artist and I'm an architect. So late in life, I decided to bring together all these different interests. And it was through visual music that this happened. Now, at EVA, one of the first things I did was to take Olivier Messiaen as an example, a French composer who I think you will all know, who suffered from synesthesia. Now, the thing about synesthesia for him was that he regarded it as a gift, not as something that he had to suffer. Because, as some of you will know, he could literally produce music, and in his head, he would be seeing colors exactly matching the makeup of his notation. How this happened, and I wanted to explore this idea a little bit. Can you hear me now? Something's happened. Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. It's just that there's something come on my screen.
Okay, you can go on. You can go on. Go on, please. Go on.
I'm going on. Yes, I'm talking about Olivier Messiaen. When I create a piece of visual music, which you're now not going to see, what I'm trying to do is to become aware of the images that go through a composer's mind as he is creating it. And what I discovered, partly by accident and partly through a quotation from a Messiaen quite late in his life, he talked about how he had always experienced the stained glass at Chartres Cathedral as almost a miracle. It's where he could sense all the colors that the rainbow colors that he used in his music. And he could actually go in Chartres Cathedral and he had this wonderful sensory experience. Now, this is something that for him started in his days as a student, but it stayed with him the whole of his life. So I took that as a starting point for an interpretation of one of his pieces, which was called Abîme des Oiseaux, which is Abyss of the Birds. And that's a piece for solo clarinet. My instrument is the solo clarinet. So it was fine for me. It was a piece that I could perform, and at the same time on the screen projected images which reflected what might have been going through Messiaen's mind when he composed the piece. Now, all my images, the colors, the shapes, were all derived from a single rose window at Chartres Cathedral. And what I found later was that Messiaen wrote a piece about 20 years after that called, I'm just trying to tell you what it was called in a second. Color de la Cité Céleste. In that preface to that piece, he, for the first time, said that it was based on colors like the rose window of a cathedral with its flamboyant and invisible colors. Now that struck me as being totally amazing, because I had chosen exactly the same rose window that was in Messiaen's mind to create the images for my visual music. But I had no way of knowing previously that that was in his mind. So what it seemed to me is that his ability to create music which was based on color had somehow communicated itself to me so effectively that I had been able to read what was in his mind. Now, in a way, you might well find that a rather far-fetched story. But more and more research that goes on in this subject proves that there's more than an element of truth in it. In other words, it's not too fanciful an idea that I could literally interpret Messiaen's music so accurately as to know what was going on in his mind. For instance, recent research has been done, only last year in fact, at Durham University in the UK, which has shown a very interesting fact that listeners to music, at least 77%, I know that sounds a very exact figure, at least 77% of listeners to music, in fact, do experience visual imagery going through their minds at the same time. It's not like a dream. It's not like what you're seeing with your eye, but it is in fact an inner vision. It is visual mental imagery, which for some people simulates what they can see.
Ritengo che quella di oggi
simulates what they can see with their eyes, and for others is completely different. Now, this dual way of visualizing the world, one through our eyes and one through our mind's eye, in other words, what the brain sees spontaneously, has always been a subject that just fascinated philosophers for literally hundreds of years. David Hume, for instance, in the 16th century, the time of the Enlightenment, he underlined the great resemblance between percepts, that's what we see with our eyes, and mental images, in other words, those that are in our mind's eye, and are similar to what we see in every particular, except their degree of force and vivacity. Now, other philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre argued that mental images have a radically different phenomenological status from percepts. He didn't accept that they were anything similar to what you see with our eyes. Now that debate has been going on between philosophers literally for hundreds of years. And I think you and I know that it will never be resolved until, through science, we actually know how the brain works. We don't at the moment. So there's no rational way of explaining the sort of inner vision that we experience when we are listening to music. Now that doesn't alter the fact that it's my ambition when I'm creating visual music, which unfortunately you're now not going to experience, I find myself confronting that mystery of how music and imagery coalesces in the human mind. And of course, it raises the question for me, should I try to manipulate or control in my visual music listeners' mental responses when they might have imagery in their minds which could differ very much from my own? Now, what I say about that is, well, yes, it is worth me trying to do that, as long as the result can increase listeners' experience of music by informing on its context and arousing emotions that might not otherwise lie, which otherwise would lie dormant. That is my justification for all that I do with visual music. Now, to further, I wonder if I'll go back slightly before I move forward to present day. I'll go back yet again. Jonathan was talking about Alan Turing. Now, for totally different reasons, I've always been possessed by the genius of Alan Turing. And one of my early pieces of visual music emerged from knowing about Turing patterns. In other words, Jonathan mentioned Turing's work on morphogenesis, and that is usually described by the layman as the scientific answer as to how tigers got their stripes. Well, of course, it is that, but it is also much more. Now, I became absolutely fascinated with this subject of Turing patterns, and I actually read Turing's paper on morphogenesis. Unlike Jonathan, I wouldn't have understood every bit of mathematics in that paper, but I did understand that Turing, as almost in the case of all his other inventions, was at least 60 years ahead of his time. And he created what is now called mathematical biology. Now, it's interesting that at an EVA conference only 2 years ago, Jonathan and I and Andy Lomax, we put on a combined presentation with a scientist, Jonathan Green from King's College in London. Now, he is a developmental biologist who, 60 years after Turing's morphogenesis theory had been put forward, proved that it is absolutely accurate. But it has actually taken 60 years for biologists to catch up. Now, what I found rather intriguing, it was my interest in visual music, which had led me to this rather unexpected subject. And I find this is where I'm talking about transcendence now. I find this rather interesting, that it's that subject that guides me into all sorts of unexpected areas where I discover things. And it meant that at EVA for that occasion, we could put on a combined description of how Turing had influenced our lives from the perspective of two scientists and two artists. And it proved to be a very, very interesting session. I think Jonathan and Graham would probably agree with that. I'm moving ahead now. Recently, and a piece that I was going to show you a small section from, I've moved on to a piece of music called sorry, yeah, I've got it. A piece of music by Luciano Berio called Sequenza 9A. Now that is a very innocuous subject, a title, I mean. But what he was doing was taking each instrument and every instrument in the orchestra, and also unusual instruments like an accordion and so on. And he, through his sequenza, was taking them to their absolute limit, their technical limit, and therefore also a performer's limit. And I was going to treat you to some of that, but that will now have to be another time. But Berio was born in Liguria, obviously in Italy. And in order to create visual music which reflected Sequenza 9A, I took a series of photographic images from my own passeggiata, in other words, my own walk round his area of Liguria. And from that, I applied a system of deep dream training. Now, another thing that Jonathan talked about in his talk was that exhibition at the Barbican, that artificial intelligence exhibition, which happened only last year. I happen to live in the Barbican, so the exhibition is a few hundred yards from where I am now, except it isn't there now, but that's where it was. Now, that's where I discovered deep dream imagery. It had been discovered by an artist a Russian artist, working at Google. And if any of you have ever seen his imagery, the thing about it is because he was Russian, every image that he produced looked like a painting by Chagall. I mean, it's interesting.
Please, can you proceed as soon as possible towards the conclusion? Thank you.
I will. And in other words, it's another illustration how my deep dreaming of imagery for Passeggiata has led me into all sorts of new directions, and now into using artificial intelligence as my way of creating visual imagery for music. The last thing I wanted to say, right at the end, is what the latest description for what we see in our mind's eye when we are listening to music is that it's quasi-pictorial ghosts. And what I wanted to tell you is that in my paper that Vito has now forwarded to you, I actually go into detail as to how in our brains these quasi-pictorial ghosts are formed. So I hope you'll have time to have a look at that later on. So
thank you very much, Terry. I take the chairman.
Thank you very much.
I thank Enrico Del Re, and we move the last paper because we have not now Andrea De Polo, will be in the late afternoon. We move the Benelli Pozemon to the first speaker in session 3. Now we try to show the registration just a short time ago of our President Gianni. If you are ready, you can try. And I apologize for any time, any Eva, my friends know very well. I say that Eva Florence is a brainstorm. It's not a conference, it's a brainstorm. This time, due to COVID-19, it is really a brainstorm. As you see, we experiment with a difficulty also by the speakers to be connected. We experiment for now, in this moment, in this second, the connection we have registered 20 minutes, 30 minutes ago of our president. You have seen a president near me in the starting of the morning. If you are ready, you can try. Potete provare? Siete pronti? Provate. We start. We try. We don't know if it's working. It's experiment. We experiment anytime in Eva new ideas.
Ma io devo dire che il professore...
We have only the voice because the image you have seen before the president, but now we have the voice by the president Eugenio Gianni.
Ritengo che quella di oggi nella sala del Gonfalone in Consiglio regionale del Palazzo del Pegaso sia un'occasione molto importante di confronto sulla ripartenza, le prospettive delle imprese, la caratteristica fondamentale di un rilancio economico che nasce dalla tecnologia e dalla voglia di fare impresa trovando spazi che siano quelli dell'innovazione e conseguentemente di prodotti che diventano competitivi proprio perché fondati su un livello di tecnologia che li rende appetibili poi nella dimensione mondiale. Certo, tutto questo avviene all'interno di un'associazione di grandissimo significato, EVA International, fondata e organizzata da personalità illustri come il professor Vito Cappellini, che per tanti anni è stato il preside di ingegneria a Firenze, ma soprattutto si è sempre caratterizzato per un'università aperta, in costante relazione con le imprese del territorio, con progetti, con idee che coinvolgessero università e lavoro. Dall'altra il professor Paolo Blasi, che ben conosciamo ai vertici dell'università per anni, questo crogiuolo di menti che ha animato EVA festeggia nell'occasione di oggi il 30° anno di vita e di attività di questa associazione così importante nel creare sinergia fra università e mondo economico, e proprio per questo sono più di 150 le imprese collegate con propri rappresentanti in Toscana e altrettante a livello mondiale. È una bella occasione perché indubbiamente dà il senso del quadro economico dopo il coronavirus, dopo la pandemia, e le prospettive che da questo possono nascere per sviluppare progetti e iniziative che danno lavoro, occupazione, tecnologia. Devo dire che sono anche convinto che proprio questa apertura allo sguardo internazionale ci consente di connettere lavoro e università alle problematiche che oggi affrontiamo e che il coronavirus ci ha messo davanti, il rapporto con l'ambiente e quindi la sostenibilità delle attività economiche, il rapporto globale in quello che sono le relazioni. Pensate che l'Italia e la Toscana dipendono molto dall'export e quindi da un contesto che va ben oltre i nostri confini per dare vitalità alla nostra economia. Il rapporto con giovani generazioni che sempre più vivono il mondo in senso globale e che quindi, anche se si formano nella loro università in Italia, se hanno opportunità di lavoro più vantaggiose e convenienti all'estero, poi diventano un capitale perso in termini di risorse umane per il nostro Paese. Tutti argomenti che vengono fuori in questa conferenza e che sicuramente per un buon amministratore danno tanti stimoli per operare e decidere.
Allora, you have I speak English because I think also Tuscany people know English, and it was the real voice of this morning of President Eugenio Gianni was going out, but left the image and the audio. Due to our experiment in real time, we have sent in a few minutes ago the Italian message to Tuscany people, essentially. I repeat only 2-3 things, which are, we start in this moment, we are in time, the last moment of this morning, which was COVID-19 and the International EVA Network. The President Gianni just as a coincidence, opened my speech about this, and eventually discussion with someone of you, because what he was telling, I anticipated, but now I repeat, in connection to the brainstorm was in the program, is in the program now, he said in the last two sentences that he, as administrator of Tuscany now, as president of Consiglio Regionale, as a candidate to be governor, he said that he thinks very, very important the international cooperation. And the young generation in the international area, not only Italian, not only Tuscany, to be introduced in the culture and technology, in particular toward the innovation applied to the enterprise. He concluded in this way, which is the starting in some way of our discussion or brainstorm in late morning we have now. We have it to do for only 20 minutes to remain in time. And I repeat, what the President Gianni said is just this, what I had in mind to say. I had in mind to say, as my friends had received many my email in last months, that the COVID-19 is terrific epidemic which is touching all the world. In Italy, we went out in 1 month, near 1 month, by the most tragic moments where we had, you know very well, thousands of died people, in particular in Lombardia. Lombardia is our region in the north where we don't explain with physician, with expert in our healthy minister and the whole association of physicians. We don't explain why in the Lombardia, the North Italy region, very, very important, the most industrialized of all Italy. We had, and also we have now, small, but also now we have a high percentage of just COVID-19 people, unfortunately few now dying also. What is the message I like to, we explained, we exchanged in last months with many of you, many ideas. For instance, just Terry Trickett was speaking before. Unfortunately, he was not able to show his beautiful image, which are in our, unfortunately, reserved book due to copyright. But I had a strong interaction with Terry Trickett and also Jonathan Bowen near him in London, just to speak about new opening of EVA community, international EVA network, to the real problem we have, the COVID-19, for instance. But going over COVID-19, which is epidemic, we hope to go out in not so long time. We have I spoke already this morning shortly, and now repeat in a more intense way. We have a dramatic situation of our earth, sea, our terra, la nostra terra. I speak Italian. Our earth is really in a bad situation due to the, I don't go in all details, you know better than me, the just polar cap is going down, the pollution is anyway, the climate, terrific storm going on all the world, and so on. I don't go in all details. What we can do as EVA community, international EVA network, to do some cooperation in this terrific moment, terrific for epidemic, terrific for economy, and terrific anyway for the disaster we have provoked in our earth. We can do, as I said very shortly this morning in the opening, action we have done in all 30 years with Jim Emsley and all the people, I remember again, the friends of London, Jonathan Graham, the Andreas in Berlin. I remember, and I hope they will say something in the afternoon. We have more time, to Jeanette and Bertrand from Paris. They are organizing from 2 years Eva Paris, which is very important, and also to Eva Jerusalem and Eva St. Petersburg, but to our Eva community. We try to really cooperate more in the international area, European but international area, to put a synergy in some way among science and art. This is our goal. Science and art. Leonardo, I have with me I don't show you, but it's a Leonardo book I just took with me this morning. Leonardo is an example, but we have many people during, as said by Jonathan and other ones in the world, using science and art to change the world. Now we will discuss in this, I hope, 2 days, really, minimum 1 day, but living with real people in Florence. We will discuss a lot, defining, I repeat, a new committee, refining a new agreement we did already 10 years ago with Jim and the other people, Andreas and the other ones in Florence. I hope to do again in next month when the COVID-19 will permit us. So anyway, because it's a brainstorm open, I ask to any one of you, I think to Jonathan, to Terry, but also Jim first, James first, Andreas, Jeanette, Bertrand, I say a few names, but anyone, if you like to say something, I am very, very happy to give you the speech.
It's Terry here, Vito. The reason I'm just picking up is that I wanted everybody to know how much work you and also to an extent I have done in the last few months on investigating how we can work successfully again with the European Commission on their projects, particularly concerned in climate change. The big point here is that the main initiative will be launched early in 21. It's called Horizon Europe. And a lot of the issues that are going to be addressed in Horizon Europe are to do with climate change and related issues. In other words, as you know, climate change isn't the only big problem that has to be faced. And I find it rather miraculous that the Commission have already, through their STARTS program, gone a long way in introducing the arts into their fundamental thinking about how to approach these big problems. And what I'm referring to is their STARTS program, which is Science plus Technology plus Arts, which has been going for 5 years. And I've talked, when I say talked, I mean I've had email exchanges with a person called Ralph Doom, who is the main instigator of STARTS at the Commission. And he now knows, and he knew nothing before, but I can assure you, he now knows about EVA and all the possibilities that exist there. And to make this very short, one of those big possibilities is working with STARTS regional centres. And the reason why that's such a good opportunity is because EVA is already well represented in the main European regional centres. So what Vito and I are talking about, and we haven't got far yet, is putting forward a proposal to the person in Linz who is running that program as to how EVA can work in tandem with STARTS to the benefit of both. Now, that's a very early definition of what's happening, and Vito is going to talk to me tomorrow in much more detail about it. But I can assure you there really are huge opportunities ahead, more than I ever thought. So I hope that will give a good note of post-COVID hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, very much. We will be in touch next days.
Yeah.
Is someone other like to, for instance, Jeanette or Bertrand, are you on the line now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Please.
Bravo, Vito, what you have done and all the others. Bravo. So, yes, we have, as we say in French, une année blanche. So nothing is going to happen because we still don't know if Corona comes back this week or so. We decide it will be next year. And I, for myself, think it's very important to put EVA into educational students and to put it in a large public, because I think we are in a crucial moment, but it's also a moment where we can create and partager and share culture through multimedia. That's really my issue, my goal. And I think EVA, that's from my will, is something very important, cultural, share and multimedia education program. That's what I really would like to develop much more.
Thank you very much. And is Andreas online? Andreas, are you there? Andreas? Probably not. I ask we had the presentation by the friend Nikolai Boris, so in some way in St. Petersburg. But I know that Moshe Kane is sure on the line. You are Moshe on the line? Moshe?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Can you say something about EVA, Minerva, Jerusalem, and what you think about is our community?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I will certainly say that we feel that we're an integral part, even though we may not be officially part of Europe, but then neither is England any longer. So so we're in the same situation. Nevertheless, I do think that being a very culturally heterogenic society, and certainly a very historic one, we have a lot to offer and a lot to participate with, some of which I will be speaking about later on this afternoon in my presentation. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly when the last EVA was. It must have been at least 3 or 4 years ago, and I certainly don't see anything happening this year. But yes, I would like very much to discuss this with you, Vito, and with Jonathan, and with James, and with all the others, to see whether we could not bring up another event of this nature. And on that level, I think we could also think possibly about not necessarily having our EVAs being location-based. I think one of the advantages of what's happening now, there are an awful lot of disadvantages, but one of the advantages of this COVID-19 is that it has forced us into a situation where we must think as a collective. This very conference that we're attending now, I mean, it is called EVA Florence, but in practice it's EVA Google Meet or EVA Zoom or whatever you want to call it. And I think this does present an opportunity. The distance is no longer the same factor that it was. And I think that also the situation that the COVID has brought about has heightened the awareness of our joint problems, the joint issues that we are having together, all of us. So I think that the next conference, possibly wherever it may be, whether it's online or physical, should concentrate on all these universal issues brought about, first of all, by the situation that we are in, and secondly, to see how, as a community, and I would like very much to echo what Janet said. We don't know each other, but nevertheless, I'm an educator. I've worked for the last 40 years in education, and I've been battling uphill trying to get the education establishment much more involved in cultural heritage, conservation, preservation, the media and the arts. And I think this is something that really we as a community, EVA community, should look to strengthen and to reinforce as a pan-European, or if you wish, as an international body. I don't think enough is being done. When I talk with my colleagues about EVA, it's a little bit like Jimmy Carter. Jimmy who? EVA who? Most people have never heard of it, which is a great shame. And so I really feel that a lot should be done, and we should leverage the situation that we are in now today to start thinking differently about how EVA contributes towards propagating the arts and digital technologies and so on and so forth throughout the world, and, as Janet said, throughout the educational system. So yes, I haven't really talked much about the Jerusalem EVA because it didn't take place the last couple of years, but I certainly invite you all to come for the next one, whenever that will be, maybe next year. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Moshe. I think that to close the morning, the best could be if Jim is on the line, to have 2 minutes a message by Jim. Jim, you are on the line? Jim, are on the line, or we can do in the afternoon? Probably is not. So I think we are in... Jim?
You need to enable your microphone, Jim.
Hello, Jim. Jim is online.
Jim. Yes,
yes.
Andreas. Say, Andrea.
Yes, hello.
Jim, say 2 words, Jim, please. Jim.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see me? I can't
Yes.
see you. Good.
We are here.
Okay.
Bye. Speak.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful to experience a dream for so many years of being able to attend an international EVA using the lasted technology. So it's a delight, absolutely a delight. And thank you, Italian Tuscany hosts led by Vito. And I think without Moshe wanting to contradict you, although this is international, it's Tuscan, Italian, European, international, like all the EVAs have open doors. And even though the phrase was England is out, and that is a political fact, but the Scots are very keen to get back in. That's just one ray of light. Now, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm just an observer now at EVA London, watching with admiration and happiness what the EVA London committee are doing, including Christina, my daughter. I'm a proud grandfather, and obviously one worries about not just the next generation, but the one after that. Now, one, I hope, useful contribution to the debate is the other areas of performing arts. We've had music ably represented by Terry. I would like to stress the opportunities coming out of the theatre world, which has, at least here in London, had a terrible time with the coronavirus. But there are moves by the theatre community to engage using, as Moshe has said, in particular Zoom technology that's regularly used now, beginning to be regularly used by theatre professionals, from different places, their homes, obviously is the main one now. And it's even being taken up, was already being taken up by TV, BBC, where while obeying the lockdown rules, nonetheless, they seem to be mainly using Zoom technology, shares the first tentative experimental steps with engaging with each other, producing pieces, communicating them. It's magical. It's magical, and although it's very experimental still as a theatre technology. So if we look to the whole range of performing and visual arts, I'm sure there's some very exciting opportunities for EVA to contribute. And one geographical area that hasn't been mentioned, and I'd like to emphasize its importance with the breadth and scope of Vito's comments, and that is Latin America and, of course, Brazil. We have had one, now thanks to EVA Jerusalem activists, we have had one EVA in Brazil some time ago, and it was at the time of great concern in Brazil and internationally about the destruction of the Amazon rainforest. Now EVA has been traditionally non-political, non-engaged in such issues, but the destruction of the rainforest, lung of the world, is really problematic. And at the time, there was not just EVA Sao Paulo, there was a conference in Rio by artists, and a main feature or aspect of that was the role of artists in combating, well, let's say, lack of action on climate change measures. I'll leave it at that. Theatre, climate, Brazil in particular, and wish you all a very, very productive brainstorming session, as Vito has said. And thank you very much for the chance to see so many old and new friends. Bye.
Bye, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. I send you a kiss. I close the morning. We open at 2:10. Thank you, Jim. I send you a kiss. Ciao.
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 Grande abbraccio. Bye all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you to all of you. Thank you.